I think speaks to me, at least a point in my life. I hate change, and sometimes have been afraid to try new things, whether it's technical or just operating outside of my comfort zone. Emily Madill is a best-selling author and a contributor to the Marc Bernier program, and to join us about stretching our comfort zone, she joins us live today on WNDB. Hi, Miss Emily.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good, thanks. Now, when you were growing up, were you a person who would try new things, or were you somewhat reticent, and then later in life a switch went off? Because I know it's not polite to say a lady's age. Let's just say over 29. She, with two children and a husband, you're trying lots of things. Did a switch go off?
I mean, I think in childhood I tried a lot of things. I had an older brother, and so I really tried to keep up to him, whether it was in different sports or, whatever he was up to. And no, I think it was kind of like when I had kids, I just started to kind of hone everything in and kind of become fearful of different things, and then made the decision to stop doing that because I'm a role model for them, and I don't want to, model that behavior. So
okay,
I've kind of experienced both ends of both sides of the coin, I would say.
We've got two quotes here. First, Albert Einstein, who said, "A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new." I believe that.
Yep, I've made lots of those. And, I think it's definitely true. I mean, if you don't put yourself out there and you don't try new things, how are you ever going to stretch and grow or to open up new doors of possibility? So I love that quote.
Yeah, I think for people like me, often I'm afraid to fail, and so that's why I have trouble and I get stuck. The other one is Brené Brown. I hope I pronounced that right. A research professor at the University of Houston describes the comfort zone as where our uncertainty, scarcity, and vulnerability are minimized, where we believe we'll have access to enough love, food, talent, time, admiration, where we feel we have some control. The comfort zone is the environment where satisfaction comes easily with little effort. Explain that to me.
Yeah, well, I think that's just the human condition. I mean, we all want to be comfortable in where we are. Like, it's not fun to put ourselves out there and to risk being vulnerable is really what it comes down to. And when we put ourselves out there with something new where we're, not certain whether or not we're going to do well, it's uncomfortable, right? And so I think that's something you almost have to kind of mentally prepare yourself, or a zone you kind of have to enter into to kind of, it's just not something that comes natural, I don't think.
Comedian Jerry Seinfeld made quite a laugh when he said that the number one fear among all Americans is public speaking. Death is number two. Death is
so
number
true.
two, which means you're actually better off being in the box than being behind a microphone. You signed up for Toastmasters after having a great fear of speaking that caused you to turn down the offer to be valedictorian of your graduating class at the university? Really?
Yeah, I mean, and I think it was just the fear of kind of being vulnerable and the fear of the unknown. Like, I remember taking university courses, and if I would find out that, we would have to do a presentation, I would be like, oh, I'm not going to take this course, and I would drop out. So I really did let those fears limit myself. And when I went to complete my degree, I did have my counselor come to me and say, hey, Emily, we think you'd be great at this. Why don't you be the valedictorian? And, Mark, there was something in me, a huge part of me, that wanted to step into that, to take that role on. Like, it would have, it really is in line with what I'm doing now with my work. And, this was years ago, but I declined, and it was something that I showed up to my graduation feeling, really kind of let down and almost ashamed about that I didn't have the courage to take that role on. And so, a little bit down the road, I decided to take Toastmasters. And when I did, like the first time I got up there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is, like, everybody else is feeling the exact same way that I am. And it was such a nice community of people, and it was nowhere near this huge, giant monster that I had made it out to be. It's just, it's funny how fears can just take on a life of their own.
When you were signing up and you were going to your first Toastmasters, did you have butterflies knowing the day you were going to speak? How did you have to sort of psych yourself to get past it?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what I was saying. Like, stepping out of our comfort zones is generally something that we do have to kind of mentally prepare ourselves for. And I had told other people. I think that's always a good thing to kind of have that accountability piece that I was signing up. And yeah, I was totally nervous. I mean, it was a long time ago, but yeah, I do remember, and it was up at the university. And I actually, it ended up being a class with a lot of international students. And so, gosh, there were people there that English was their second language, and they were just learning it. I mean, they were far more nervous than I was. So, you know, as soon as I was around that and had made that, it was the biggest part was making that decision to actually just be like, okay, I'm going to, you know, confront this fear and see what happens. And then once I was there, it was like, I don't know, it just ended up being nowhere nearly as big as I thought it was.
Yeah, you also overcame, a lot of Americans, including me, have a fear of falling. There's a fear of flying for some people, and you did a skydiving thing. What was that like, and did people try to talk you out of it? Did you have to talk yourself into it? How did that come about?
Well, yeah, that's kind of the ultimate one, right? Like, if you would have asked me a year ago, would you ever skydive? I'd be like, Mark, you're crazy. There's no way. I would never do it. And anyway, I was going on a trip with a girlfriend, and she was like, come on, let's go do this. And I was like, you're fried. Like, there's no way I'm not going to do that. I don't even like flying. And, you know, and I do quite a bit of travel, so I'm used to flying, but I don't really love it. And so then I kind of got to thinking, I'm like, well, you know, that would be the ultimate way to kind of confront this fear that I have. If you jump out of an airplane at over 10,000 feet, you know, maybe that would really kind of help me. And so again, I didn't really say anything because I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. And for me, I know that as soon as I put something out there to my friends and loved ones, that I usually stick by my word and do it. And so I talked to my husband about it, who has actually gone skydiving, and he had the biggest laugh about it because he was like, you are so chicken, I can't even imagine you doing that, but I'll pay. Like, if you're going to do that, you know, I wish I was a fly on the wall. I would love to see that. And so that kind of challenged me a little bit. And then I put it out there to a couple of people. And so, but I was so nervous. Like, usually I'm excited before a holiday, and for like the 2 weeks leading up to the holiday, I was just sick to my stomach.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. Tip of the hat to both of you. And then you made a decision to go in for training, for educational training, to become a professional coach. Here, since you had overcome the fear of public speaking and the fear of flying, you're diving right into something that is, again, outside of your comfort zone. Take us and listeners through the process, because this really is a core area for you. It's going to be a vocation for you. What does this all entail?
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime I think we are learning new things, it's a little bit kind of scary. And so right now I'm learning basically what feels like a whole new language and way of connecting with other people. So, you know, each week I meet with my classmates, and for right now we're doing it all over the phone. So we meet in like a conference type setting, and, you know, there's people from all over the world. And the thing that I've noticed, Mark, the most is that, you know, these people come from all different, you know, educational backgrounds and, you know, in business and, you know, a lot of really successful people. But we're all kind of bonded through our commonality of being a bit vulnerable and showing up and like trying on this new language of listening and, you know, going through the different steps and stages of learning. And it's kind of bonding us all because we all are in the same boat. So, yeah, it's just another really, you know, interesting learning point for me. And I'm loving it. It's just, it feels amazing to be in these learning environments, and it doesn't feel like work. And had I not gone through and put myself in an uncomfortable situation, I'd be missing out on connecting with all these great people and having all these wonderful learning experiences.
Are you, as part of this job, would you be drawing people out that might not otherwise openly express themselves in areas? Is that part of what this coaching would require you to do?
Yeah, you know what, Mark? It's a lot of just listening. So it's kind of holding people as able to kind of find those answers within themselves. And so you're kind of just giving them that safe place to explore, you know, different areas of their life that they want to, you know, have more success in. And so it's really not, it's like a no advice giving zone, which for me, it doesn't feel all that natural. And so, but going through the process and following the steps and everything, because we're coaching each other right now, and it actually does work. Like the people that I'm coaching, and, you know, and I also have the opportunity to be coached, it's like they really are coming up with their own aha moments. And when people come up with their own learning and their own insights, they attach to it better.
All right.
You know, because it's not advice. So
for the people listening to us that are also parents, let's talk about as role models to, you have 2 sons, they watch everything. You know, when mom's doing different things, you've got to be responsible, but you also want them to try to operate outside of their comfort zone. Can you give an example of how, as a parent and being a role model, you can apply this?
Yeah, Mark, I think the best way to teach, you know, this to our children is through modeling and doing it ourselves, because, you know, kids are growing and learning and presented with new experiences every day. And as parents and caregivers, if we are giving them those examples of what that looks like, and you know, giving them, you know, the advice or helping them to see that, you know what, like, Mom is, you know, doing this right now, and it's kind of like, I'm a little bit scared here, but you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. And then kind of touch base with them again and be like, you know what, that was awesome. Like, I'm so happy that I did that. Because, like, my son enrolled in musical theater, and, you know, we're a huge sports family, and that was, you know, really out of his comfort zone, and he didn't know the people there, and he was a little bit anxious. And so, you know, we had that talk on the way there. You know, if you really don't want to do it, you don't have to, but, you know, why don't you try it once and just see how it goes, and I bet you, you know, you'll really love it. And when we put ourselves in those situations where we don't know people and are a little bit uncomfortable, like, it really helps us to feel more confident in who we are. And sure enough, he went and loved it, and I think it does build their confidence and in themselves to try new things.
There's a publication that you wrote for about 4 years ago called Island Gals Magazine, and in it there's a feature about your work, and you took another leap and published. You're a published author, which is no easy feat for anyone to get published. Lots of people have ideas, but very few people actually get it done. Would that be another example of operating outside of your comfort zone because you had never published before?
I think that's the biggest example of my life where I've operated outside of my comfort zone, Mark, because I've been doing it for 8 years now, and I've been doing it at home while raising my kids full time. And a lot of people, you know, it's just funny because a lot of people don't really realize what I'm doing, and, you know, which is totally okay, but it's just constantly being overlooked and kind of not taken seriously over the years. It has been difficult, but it's really propelled me to continue making steps and to get help from people that know what they're doing and to really build my business. Because for me, this was a whole new business when I walked into it, and I've, you know, learned through making so many mistakes and overcoming the challenges. But the greatest part about it is each time I do that and put myself out there, you know, like anybody in any business, I personally feel like I'm growing. And yeah, it's a great forum for me to continuously push past my comfort zones.
I was reading something that you shared from the Huffington Post about operating outside of a comfort zone, and it's mentioned in here about anxiety, and it says, and I quote, "A little anxiety can help us perform at our peak. Psychologists have found, in other words, when we challenge ourselves, we tend to rise to the occasion." I've heard that used in another fashion when you sometimes place a person in a position of authority that you might not otherwise think can handle it, and then they rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I think, you know, if we're just always operating in the same, like, we can't really step it up and have those opportunities to, you know, really show our full potential. And so, you know, having that, you know, challenging ourselves really does help us to perform at our peak, I believe, you know, in everything, whether that's, you know, in our businesses, you know, and as children too, like when you give them that little bit of extra responsibility, it's amazing how well, they all of a sudden know how to do all of these things because, instead of micromanaging them, if they feel that they're in charge of this task or whatever it is, it's been the case in our household. They definitely do rise to the occasion.
A psychologist at the University of Texas, Denise Park, wrote for the American Psychological Association that embracing new challenges can help you age better. It's interesting because we once spoke about, playing chess, learning a new skill, learning another language. It keeps the brain sharp. And that's an area where you're actually operating outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I hope that I'll continue doing throughout my life, because I think the thing, Mark, too, is, obviously we're not going to constantly be, doing things like jumping out of the plane or, things like that. But when we, get in that kind of rat place where we're not expanding ourselves or not pushing past our comfort zones, life can be a bit stagnant. And so, I hope for myself in my life that I continually do practice that, because I think when we are a little bit uncomfortable and we do those things to keep ourselves mentally sharp is when we really do feel alive.
And most Americans take these chances with a new year on January 1st, and then the interest kind of wanes as the year moves on. You caution folks in your writings, be ready to take those risks and move boldly, but not too boldly, because you don't want to get discouraged. And if you take on too much, I guess, when you're trying to operate outside your comfort zone, you may disappoint yourself.
Yeah, I think, just checking in with yourself and, if you're in a place of stagnation, or if you're, not putting yourself out there, or, if you're holding yourself back from really great opportunities, then I think that's a time to look at how you can step outside of your comfort zone and, really step it up. And yeah, of course, you don't want to be doing that all of the time and creating a whole bunch of extra stress for yourself. But, I think, having people that you can check in with, and, you and I have talked about self-awareness and all of those things. If you're really, kind of in line with being aware of where you're at, you'll know when it's time to set a new goal for yourself.
Now, listeners can go to the Emily Madill website, emilymadill.com, and learn about the Grateful Jake Resource Guide and the series of Grateful Jake books, along with Captain Joe, the teaching resources, and Sam's Magic Mirror. Emily Madill, our guest today on WNDB. Good job, Emily. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mark. Have a great day.
All right, operate outside of your comfort zone for the rest of the day, please, and report back.
Okay, you too.
See ya. Bye.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.